it's like you're alone on the path, you know? You are seeking the light for yourself, so to speak. Then ultimately maybe to spread it, obviously. But now with that new understanding, having been filled like inside out, it's like it's so different. You actually have a creator. Like this is like a communion. There's somebody there, and that's an understanding it. They can always grow, obviously, still. But it's huge to just think that we're not alone.
This is Unconditioning, Discovering the Voice Within, with Whitney and Jenkins.
Hello and welcome to the 105th episode of Unconditioning, Discovering the Voice Within, where I bring on guests and we talk about the inner authentic voice and the challenges and the rewards that come from following it. This episode I have with me Artemis Marah. She is the founder and artist of a heavenly art brand dedicated to bringing a touch of heaven into homes and hearts through her paintings. But it wasn't always that way. Once on a completely different path, Artemis was pursuing a career in international relations, becoming an environmental lawyer. Despite her professional success, Artemis battled years of depression and darkness. And then one moment changed everything. A divine experience lifted the weight of her struggles and revealed a newfound purpose. She realized that impact wasn't confined to legal work. Almost overnight, she began to paint with an ability she had never known before. Her passion for art became more than just self-expression. It became a mission to spread light and life to the world through beauty and meaning. I had a lovely time talking with Artemis about her journey from depression into the light, and I think that this is an episode where you will find much wisdom, so enjoy. The nature of my podcast is about following the inner voice and authenticity and that thing within you that drives you to make choices in your life. Sometimes it can bring great rewards, and sometimes it can be a little challenging, especially if you choose to ignore it. And as an artist, and the nature of what you do in expressing your voice through your craft, I feel like you probably had to follow this voice or have a journey along the way to be able to even do what you do. So one of the first things that I like to ask is, when is the first time that you realized that you had this inner voice of your own that you were able to recognize?
Mm, That's an interesting question when you look at the chronology of life, right? And
Right.
it's difficult to pick, I would say, a key moment, but I would say it definitely started, I would say, in childhood already, but it wasn't like an inner audible voice, so to speak. It was more like an inner compass that I had a sense of purpose, a sense of a mission, what I should do in this life. And it started very early on, already with 5, 6 years old. I had dreams, I think, as many children do, but sometimes just the environment doesn't permit them to actually follow that inner compass, right? And so I did follow that, but along the way I figured out sometimes, we can have a sense of purpose, but it might not be yet the authentic version of us. Because there's so many factors influencing us from outside, from parenthood, from where we grew up with, the values that we might have been transmitted. So it was like like a fogged up compass, I would say, until I had like a key transformation, a key, transition to actually connect more deeply to that inner authenticity and that inner voice also more clearly, than later on in my years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you be able to describe your environment growing up and what that was like for you?
Sure. So I think I grew up in a very idyllic environment, like a typical Swiss village. Picture the images of Heidi, if you know the story. It's really, you have many cows and not so many people. It's a very peaceful environment for kids to grow up with. And also a very, I would say, free-spirited home, right? But in that sense, I wasn't imposed any belief system, right? I wasn't in a sense, I didn't grow up Christian. I didn't grow up a certain denomination or whatsoever. Yeah,
Yeah, so you're able to sort of carve your own path in that way. You weren't forced into anything.
exactly. That's what happened later on. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Hmm.
okay, so you said that you had a key moment that sort of cleared away the fog from the compass. So what was that moment?
Mm, maybe I can share a bit on the building up. What led actually to that key moment is because when I entered my teenage years, I really started struggling with depression and going through very dark days. It's literally, it felt like having a lid on the pot. It was something so deeply oppressing me, almost like a force.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was very dark. And I tried to hide it as much as possible to still be able to cope with life, obviously. You have to. But I was constantly looking for solutions, constantly looking for healing. Because obviously, if you know you're not well, your mind always starts looking for solutions and healing. So that led me on a path of years of uh, yeah, solution finding. And I even traveled the world to find other places, maybe other teachers, other ways. Because I obviously tried Western medicine. I tried the psychologist, psychiatry, and no, not psychiatry. Sorry, you need to cut that out. It wasn't psychiatry, psychologist. You say it in English, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, psychiatry can also apply. So psychiatry is more for like the medicinal like medicines.
Ah, okay.
But yeah, they're both relevant. So,
Okay. No, so basically I tried out psychologists. I started looking into different healing methods. I started with New Age, Buddhism, like all kinds of things. Like, and that's even when I traveled to Sri Lanka to talk to monks and spend time in a monastery to look for solutions there.
hmm.
And so that was all building up to that moment of me actually being really on a path for years, actively looking what in the world is there that can heal me from depression. And I think in the end, everybody wants to be happy. And everybody's just trying to figure it out somehow, right?
Yeah.
That I was doing that as well. It was more, you can almost say, an egoistic quest for well-being, right? And I even then eventually, so I was quite atheistic, an atheist. I was an atheist before. That's how I grew up. And I did decide ultimately also to go to church just to see what they offer, because again, I wanted to be neutral in the way I would analyze solutions. In the sense, I'm actually, I know I'm an artist, but I'm quite analytical, so to speak. So I'm very rational in how I'll go about things. And that's also, I really would go to one thing after the other and check the boxes if it really helped, if there was a transformative value in that thing. And some things I don't want to dismiss them, but it was not a like a permanent, sustainable solution. I always had fallbacks. So I also went to church and they also tried to help me. They also tried to pray for me, but it didn't work, unfortunately. So you can imagine that led to quite a big desperation.
Yeah. What was your understanding of your depression during that time? Did you understand the source of it, or was it just a black cloud that you were trying to make go away and not understanding?
Quite frankly, I did have an understanding
Yeah.
what it was. Um, there were demonic attacks,
Oh,
and I felt it.
yeah.
I know that might sound spooky, whatever, weird. Again, I did believe in all that stuff. Like I really didn't. I really grew up atheist. Um, but I really felt it. They were like entities oppressing me. I really felt it. And people would see it inside of me as well. Like it was crazy to the point that um, people would really see the difference when I was having an attack and when I didn't, because my eyes switched. They would say your eyes switched. That's the word they would use. So again, like if I wouldn't have lived it, I wouldn't have believed all those things.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, it was quite heavy, and obviously you cannot talk about it.
Right. Yeah, that
Like,
explains
uh,
why like you were searching for things outside of you to help you get through that time. Yeah.
yeah. So that's why in Western medicine I got labeled with depression, right, and burnout. But I know the causes were much deeper, and there were also spiritual causes behind.
Do you you don't have to like talk about this if you don't want to and if it takes
Hmm.
you down a dark place. But do you remember what that switch felt like to experience?
Yeah, I do, obviously. I remember it quite vividly. And you can really, yeah, imagine it as yeah, maybe as a dark cloud. Like you can have a light day, you feel normal, and then you have sort of a dark cloud coming, clouding your mind. So it is like a force that will oppress all goodness, all joy, all love, and you will feel dead inside. You will feel down and you try to fight it. You try to fight yourself out of it. Maybe, you do your affirmations, do all kinds of things to get to a certain positivity, but it's not working because the oppression from above is really like a lid on a pot. You
Yeah,
don't manage to go out of it. Yeah, does that make sense?
that makes sense. Yes. So when you were going around the world and seeking solutions, were you honest about what you felt was happening to you? And trying, like, what did people in like Sri Lanka say versus like the church? Like, how did they explain this to you?
That's, yeah, that's interesting. And yeah, I should have done a research paper about that one, huh?
So,
How do different denomination religions respond to that issue? Um, Basically, the response was mm, some sort of helplessness, mostly in the first place. And I was being honest at one point. I wasn't hiding anymore what I felt was going on. For example, when I said uh, what I'm feeling and what's going on um, to the psychologist, the only solution that they were able to provide were medicine, which I refused because I know it, like, why should I hype myself up with some medicine if the cause of the spiritual issue is not dealt with to the root?
yes.
So that was, for example, Western medicine solution to just give, yeah, the medicine. Then you had the Buddhists in Sri Lanka, the monastery, that the only guidance, first of all, they rarely dealt with such a case. They were a little bit helpless and shocked, obviously, was being very empathetic. But the only solution they told me to do is to meditate. Now, imagine the frustration traveling around the world to seek for help, for deliverance, enlightenment. I didn't know what the solution looked like. And you're told to just meditate whilst you have been meditating for years.
Right. Right.
That was quite frustrating. So I was like, how many years shall I meditate? I've been doing it for years already. And yeah, that was the Buddhist solution, and the Christianity tried to pray. So they were the churches, they were praying, but they didn't manage to cast them truly out. Yeah, so that was a little bit the setup of the quest for deliverance that I was going through.
Okay, so how did you find your way forward from that?
Thankfully, there's always a good ending to stories, or that's what we always hope for, right? And my way out and my deliverance that happened when I was talking to someone who started truly also explaining me a bit more about God, because I had no idea, like literally. Again, I was in New Age, I was there, Buddhist, I was all over the place. And again, I did try the church thing and it also didn't work. So for me, rationally speaking, the next thing would have been Islam, because I was really going like a methodology. I was going checking all the boxes, right? And but yeah, I didn't went so far. So someone was just a little bit more explaining me about God and everything, and I was like, okay, I have nothing to lose. I'm gonna hear it out anyways. Until then, we had a couple of conversations, and then that person was okay. So Artemis, you already now have some understanding about that God thing, right? I explained you some stuff, but there's still one point. Do you want to just know about God, like reading a Wikipedia article, or do you actually want to experience God and get to know your source, your father? And I'm like, anyways, I don't have nothing to lose. I was in a bad position. Like I've tried everything. I was like, sure, do you want to give me his WhatsApp number, or how can we connect? And in that moment, that's or something very magical happened. That's when I felt the Spirit of God entering me, and all the darkness left in one instant.
Wow.
Like this feeling of liberation, this feeling of being filled by something that is good, this was incredible. And since then, they never came back. That has been years now. So that was the key moment.
Yeah, you weren't thinking about it in your mind. You were integrating it finally, and experiencing it within yourself.
Mhm. Like I was looking for so many years for something to free me, to really find that inner peace, that inner happiness. But obviously, I didn't know where to look for. Like nobody showed me the path. So you end up trying everything. Yeah.
So the person that mentioned that to you and that idea, um, did they do anything to help you integrate that after that moment?
This, in the sense, integrating that reality, you mean, or to
Yeah, as they introduced that concept to you.
mm. Yeah, it was a lot of talking involved, obviously, and understanding and growing into that new reality. Because up to that point, I lived in a completely different reality. It's like your whole worldview shifts, like from one day to the other. It's like night and day. So obviously, you have so many questions,
Yeah.
so many. So thankfully, I was able to sit under that wisdom and learn and grow step by step. But it's an ongoing process, obviously. But yeah, definitely, there's a lot involved in such a
Yeah.
shift.
Yeah. After having that happen to you and experiencing that moment, what did you then think about the experiences that you had searching for
Hmm. I see it like a good movie, you know? I think you've also been in acting or theater and in the movie scene, and there's always some drama involved for a good movie to happen. And so you see the main character going through struggles, and they have these problems they're trying to solve. So it's like a quest. Or like, do you know the story of Ithaca?
I'm not sure that I do.
Okay, so it's a Greek from Greek mythology, and it's basically you're on a quest for this one island, Ithaca. So you're on your boat and you're sailing and sailing, and you'll face so many challenges along the way. And that's how I see life, or also how I view the experience from before. You were meant to arrive at a destination, but there were roadblocks in between, but that's all part of the journey of growth. That's all part of the journey that in the end that makes up a good movie. There's some tension involved in it, for you to come to the happy end. And yeah, ultimately once you arrive to your destination, or to that place where you feel, yeah, that's now where you arrive to your authentic self, you arrive to the truth. That's where a whole other chapter opens, because now it's a different life to live from. Yeah.
Yeah. How did your understanding or inner standing of
I like that.
yourself and spirituality change after that moment?
Everything changed. I wouldn't even know where to start. It's so different, because now you're not alone anymore. Before, when I had my Buddhist phase for a couple of years, I was trying to reach enlightenment. Um, it's like you're alone on the path. You are seeking the light for yourself, so to speak. Then ultimately, maybe to spread it, obviously. But now, with that new understanding, having been filled like inside out, it's like it's so different. You actually have a creator. Like, this is like a communion. There's somebody there, and that's an understanding that they can always grow, obviously, still. But it's huge to just think that we're not alone, and that from that point of view, the spirituality changes so much. It's about, yeah, growing in peace, growing in love, growing in joy, to then ultimately also extend it to others, and not just only have enlightenment for myself or whatever.
Yeah. I think it also probably took the pressure off of you to find solutions by yourself.
Exactly. Hmm. Exactly. You have, all of a sudden, you have like a path to follow, and yeah.
Okay. So how did your life transform after that? Like what happened next?
um so it was not only emotionally and spiritually that I got restored and changed completely, but also professionally. So I wasn't an artist always. I was on a completely different path. So I studied international relations. I started working at the UN, and I was about to get into being a lawyer. That would have been the continuation of my professional path. And obviously, such tremendous changes, like spiritually, there is also a lot of reflection that comes along. And I think you always put an emphasis on finding your authentic self, yeah, authentic voice. So obviously, all of a sudden, if you are like born into a new light, you will see life differently. And that's what happened. And all of a sudden, I was able to paint the way I paint now. That wasn't before. Like, I was just determined on my professional legal path or whatever, international relations. And all of a sudden this gift got installed in me to paint. Like I always obviously had a flair for creativity and I did like painting, but the way I painted after the transformation, like I never was able to do that. I never did that.
Yeah.
So I was like, it's a gift. So why would I hide it? So I felt like, okay, let me transition. Let me actually work with what was already given to me and yeah, share that piece that I've experienced, share that with people through my art. And obviously, I'm still passionate about laws and politics, but it's just different life chapters, right? So yeah.
Can you explain for the listeners your process of when you create your art? And
Mhm.
actually, like what was it like to go from like doodling on the legal pad at your job into actually like executing a painting? Like for the first time after that, what was that like?
That was quite a struggle. That was quite, yeah, from analyzing paragraphs to actually then paint. Like it's so different. So actually it took a while to adapt my brain and my functioning to creativity again. Like, yes, I might have had some creativity in analyzing treaties and contracts, but actually having that creative spirit that I know you have as well, that takes a moment to develop that. So this is like a process to let it sink in, to allow it as well, right? And to let it flow out.
Yeah, I would almost say not necessarily develop it, but remember it within you from when you're
Oh,
a child.
I like that. True.
Yeah.
I like that. True, yeah. Yeah, especially if you think of children, you're so right. They're always creative. So many ideas.
And just giving yourself the permission to have
Mhm.
that freedom and to surrender to like play and flow and
Yeah,
creativity.
definitely.
So how
Mm,
long did it take you to transition from that job into your art and what you're doing now?
mm, mm. I think the decision was made in a couple of weeks,
Oh, wow.
right? It was quite quick, everything, and the speed of light almost, I would say the transformation. And yeah, it was a couple of weeks to quit the old path and then obviously to actually start being on the new path, building it up. That took some months or years. But yeah, I think once you have decided in your mind, then it's just step by step to execute it then in the outside world, right? So yeah.
Yeah. For the listeners, would you be able to describe what your art is
Mm,
like visually, or the process that you use to create it?
yeah. So my art is called Heavenly Art. And that just means that what I intend to do with every painting is something that is uplifting and something that can inspire. And so every piece that I do, I want to infuse it with a message that can either bring you happiness, that can bring you peace or a sense of purpose. And so that's kind of the essence of the kind of art that I'm doing. And yeah, so the process of it's very spontaneous in the sense I have impressions or own experiences that I actually am living or going through. And that's what I then share with the world many times. And that's when other people can also find inspiration in those things.
Yeah. Do you have like a favorite thing that you love to paint that you feel like is an expression of yourself?
I do. I think, yeah, if people look at my portfolio, they will recognize certain symbols. Maybe you had a look at my art already, and it's definitely trees. So trees is one of the recurring symbols that I always use, and it's for me just very beautiful, also symbolizing my own path. You know, as you start as a seed, you're battling your way through the ground. You know, the ground can be rocky, can be hard, but at one point, the seed will reach the light and it will come out. And then it's just a process of growing stronger, growing roots, and growing into the heavens with the branches, and that you can actually bear fruits and have maybe even creation being a place for like being a place as a home. Like birds can build their nests inside a tree. You have fruits for humans. So I think that's for me a metaphor that always resonated with me. So it you find it a lot in my paintings. Yeah.
I love that. That's beautiful. I was wondering if you might be able to share a little bit about how you gained the confidence to show up as an artist and like claim that space,
Mhm.
especially with the value of art in society. And it in Europe, I
Mhm.
think it's probably a little different than in the US, but I feel
I get it, yeah.
value of art in society is something that must be claimed by the artist because it's not necessarily defined.
Mm.
So, how has that journey been for you in claiming that space for yourself?
It's a good question, and I think also relevant, as you say, now today in society, like certain, if you can consider it, jobs or positions have certain connotations, right? You look at a lawyer differently than you look at it as a painter, right? And I think for me, how I was able to maybe claim that identity or that new title, if you can call it like that, or that new occupation that I'm doing now, it's just really, yeah, knowing who I am and that this is what is currently very aligned to me. Like, oh, I actually don't care what other people think about it. Like, I'm passionate about it. Like, I like doing my art, and people who will like my art, they will like it. Like, and I just show up as me. Like, today I might paint, tomorrow I might do sculptures, the day after tomorrow I might do some other businesses. So I don't like identify necessarily with I am an artist, but it's something I do. I'm passionate about it. And yeah, in the end, I'm still Artemis.
Yeah.
And that's the spot I claim to be me, to be authentically me, you know?
Yeah, once you made the decision to move away from your job,
Hmm.
did you find that things opened up for you and fell into place like once you
Oh my God, yes.
yeah.
I have a feeling you also have certain experiences like that when you like follow that inner voice, right? And you feel that's the right path to take. Like things have been falling into place magically. Like it's just, yeah, crazy sometimes. And that's when you know, okay, step by step, there is a plan. There is something that is in store for us, right? We might not always see the big picture or the whole the whole movie script of our life. But yeah, definitely. Like things really fell into place. Yeah.
Um, I think like once we decide to choose ourself, then yeah, there is a little bit of magic to that.
Mm. Have you had some experience of that sort as well?
I have, but I feel like I'm like every day, like especially recently, I feel like that's sort of the goal of each day is to choose yourself, choose. choose the next best thing for yourself.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. Is there anything like on the top of your mind or your heart that you feel like you would love to share that we haven't covered yet?
Mm, I think, yeah, overall, like what I really also take out of this, right, from your podcast and following the inner voice or authenticity is there's really a path to light and there's really a path to authenticity. There's a space that you can claim in being yourself. And like discovering your identity, this is so huge, right? And yeah, I just would love for everybody to experience this, right? And to get to that space where you can really, yeah, know yourself and find your things that you're passionate about. And yeah, mostly no matter how dark it is, there can always come a light again at one point.
So, how do you now look at depression?
um yeah, I don't look at it only from a clinical stereotypical perspective, I would say. Since yeah, I had my own experiences, so I feel there's a deeper root cause, and it's like too easy to just label it with a name, because human beings are so complex, like so complex. Like we can have baggage from our childhood, things that happen, I don't know what, but like that complexity, we would need to undwindle it or unwind it to actually get to the root cause. So yeah, I feel it's for everyone different, probably. So there's no no fit for everyone, no one size fit for everyone. But yeah, how do you see it?
I see it very similarly. I had depression issues when I was younger as well.
No way.
And so I'm wondering now from your perspective of everything that you went through, what is your take on like just the idea of protecting your own energy? Do you have things in place or boundaries that you follow to make sure that like you remain true to yourself?
In the sense of not falling back to depression, for example, or
Or just allowing
mm,
external things to get into
yeah.
your energy field.
That's important. So it's definitely twofold. One is you need to be aware, right, of of yourself to see, okay, what might bring you down energetically and what might lift you up. But there's also a point where you will grow so much that things will not hit you too easily anymore, right? So it's like I feel like a growth process. And then it's also like that experience of actually, yeah, the spirit of God entering me. That's like a natural protection field that got like added upon, which is what shields. And that has really been, I would say, the key the key thing to not falling in back, so to speak. Yeah, does that make sense?
Absolutely. If anyone is listening to this who might be struggling with something like depression, how would you, what advice would you give them as to how you were able to find that light within you or surrender?
um, I wouldn't wish for anyone to go on that journey that I've been to finding solutions. Sometimes it is necessary. Like, I wouldn't say don't try out anything. Like, sometimes it is necessary for you to try out different things because you want to have that knowledge of what's not working to know what's working, right? But obviously, if there could be a shortcut, like I would go straight to God now. But yeah, sometimes it's just not possible, right? Also with again our mindset, what we might believe and everything. So yeah, but in the end, to really have a heart who wants to have a solution and be open. And then I think things will fall into place. If you're really genuine, like genuinely looking for a solution, open how this might look like, then at one point things might reach you, I think.
I think so. Or even a moment of surrender in which you have no other choice but to
Definitely.
try something.
Sometimes the solution will hit you so hard you have no other choice. Yeah.
If people would like to look at your artwork or purchase it or whatever they're able to do to follow you, where could we guide them?
They can find me on social media, on Instagram, Facebook at Artemis Marah or Artemis Marah Art. And yeah, there everybody can connect with me.
Okay, I can't help but now notice that art is in your name.
Well done. Right? Isn't it funny? Isn't it funny? Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I think it just is. It's just meant to be.
Exactly, yeah. Some things you cannot run away with or not run away from.
I agree. So I'll
Yeah.
put those links into the show notes so people can click on them really easily. And I usually ask one last question to wrap up, and that is if your inner voice had a billboard,
Hmm.
say to the world.
It's an intriguing question. Summarize it in one sentence. I would say there is always light after darkness.
Hmm,
Yeah.
I love that. Sums up your story very well.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story and your wisdom. I've really enjoyed this.
Thank you so much. Very much appreciated.
Thank you so much for joining me this week. If you're listening and you like what you hear, please consider subscribing and rating this podcast, as it really helps get this podcast out to other people who might be interested in hearing it but don't know about it yet. And also, if you'd like to contact me or reach me, you can reach me at unconditioningpodcast@gmail.com or unconditioningpodcast on Instagram. Thank you so much. And until next time, stay tuned in to you.